What's going on, guys? TG or ThunderGod here, and with me today I got New Horizons. Say what's good, bro.
What's good, bro?
We're
What?
and today we are talking about Naruto and Sasuke. I know you love it, and more specifically, we're talking about what if they had swapped fights and a lot of key points in the story, and who would have come out with more W's, kind of like replacing their roles in a certain sense. So we'll be kind of keeping track throughout the video and keeping like count. And by the end of the video, we'll kind of like, you know, give you the total score and see who comes out with like more W's and who, if like they took each other's fights, just came out better. So that being said, check out New Horizons. You know the vibes. He's link in the description and the title, all that good stuff. And with that being said, let's get into the video. All right, so starting off, we have Naruto versus Yoroi in the Chunin exams, the first round. Now, honestly speaking, Naruto's probably gonna wash Yoroi at this point. Yoroi was like he was getting weaved out by a Sasuke who not only was fatigued from the Forest of Death. Not a lot of people like talk about this, but every character in the Chunin exams like fatigued. Yoroi also was this Sasuke wasn't even able to like amp his base movements with his chakra. So not only is he weaving out Yoroi with like no ampage or anything at all, he can't use his Sharingan. He's like getting nerfed by the curse mark. He then proceeds to like taijutsu barrage and like body Yoroi after getting like most of his chakra absorbed. So it's just kind of like you have this really bad showing by this like sound ninja, whereas like Naruto, who like Sasuke kind of acknowledges Naruto's strength at this point in the series, who he's like going on against Kiba and like having this onslaught brawl. It's just like Naruto's much more fresh in this position. He's gonna be able to make clones, and even if Yoroi like grabbed him and like start absorbing his chakra, A, he's not gonna be able to absorb all of it, or B, it just has the inverse effect and like Naruto brings out the QB, in which case Yoroi's getting washed. So Yoroi was like not tanking blows from like a super fatigued Sasuke. So this Naruto's like outside his realm in all aspects. So Naruto does kind of clear this realm with a lot less difficulty than Sasuke had in their initial fight.
So as for like the polar, or I guess the opposite for the Chunin exam prelims would be Sasuke versus Kiba in Naruto's position. And this is going to be like Sasuke, like let's say like the computer spit out Sasuke versus Kiba. So this is going to be Sasuke just as fatigued. So basically, right, he can't use jutsu. I mean, he was like falling on the ground and stuff in the original fight. So this is actually like a very bad situation for Sasuke that he would easily win if he was 100%. But in this case, he is very down bad. So
yeah,
in terms of like the matchup, like Kiba is I guess he's kind of underrated among the Genin, that he's very physical, which is like the last thing that Sasuke needs here since he's so fatigued. And so basically I really don't see, me and TG don't really see Sasuke just duking it out with Kiba kind of the way that Naruto was trying to. So like but he did show some good signs in the original fights. But against Kiba, I don't think that's going to work because he's going against someone much more stronger. So, like, for example, he was able to, like, copy Lee's movement and do Alliance Barrage. But not nearly as well as Lee, because, like, even, like, Yoroi was, like, blocking some of the Alliance Barrage at times. And, like, when he went up into the air, Sasuke got paralyzed by the curse mark briefly. And that's just not going to work because, like, if Akamaru is in play and Akamaru is taking his pill and turned into like a Kiba clone, he's just gonna bail Sasuke out of like Alliance Barrage, which is really like, that's really the only win condition Sasuke has in this position where he can't use jutsu at all. So surprisingly, in this situation, Sasuke is just going to lose because he simply does not have it in him at the moment to duke it out with a very physical fighter.
Yeah, so that kind of concludes like the Chunin exam like prelims. Really bad start for Sasuke, you know, admittedly. But moving on to round two, we start off with like Naruto versus Gaara, right? Naruto takes Sasuke's position in the fight. And now, you know, a lot of people will like point to Naruto's performance against Gaara in the forest. But the problem is, Naruto, like, his first instincts were to run from that fight. He doesn't think he could beat Gaara. A lot of people have, like, heard these arguments before. And on top of this, you know, the series points to him, like, getting, like, crazy mental amps. He's like, bro, where's all this chakra coming from? You know, you'll be as strong as you need to be. All that plot, like, contrivances that you notice or, like, is talked about. In this case, Gaara's actually going to be fighting a lot more offensively with his sand, whereas Naruto's not going to... It's going to be a completely different fight, whereas, like, Naruto, he was already intimidated by Gaara to the point where like he thought Sasuke would just get obliterated by Gaara. Maybe you could talk about like that's him projecting how he thinks like he would do against Gaara. And in this case, Gaara's just going to be fighting a lot more intelligently. He's going to be using his sand a lot more offensively, making sand clones, probably putting Naruto in a sand burial. Naruto, you can maybe argue like he makes like, you know, they talk about like why he doesn't make more clones and like he's saving like his chakra, but in this case Naruto, like he's just not going to be able to like breach Gaara's defenses in the same capacity. He's not going to be able to perform like the 1,000 shadow clone barrage that he was performing against Gaara in the forest of or not the forest of death, but just the random forest. And now if Naruto does like able to access like Kurama's chakra, I think that actually is a bit more interesting. I think at that point we'd see something akin to like Sasuke just blitzing around Gaara and beating him down with his sand armor. But it still I don't believe like Naruto like blatantly eclipsed Gaara at that point to the where like he'd absolutely be able to like break him down. Like, and this is especially true if Gaara goes into his like sand ball. Naruto has no way to breach into it with his like physical strike. So you can actually make a case that like Naruto can amp himself to kind of beat around Gaara, maybe weave around the sand if Gaara like presses him to that point. But there's no like way for Naruto to like actually take down Gaara. He doesn't really have a win condition at this point. He's not gonna summon Gamabunta in the arena, you know, so there's none of that. So Gaara generally does come out on top. And you can even make a case in the original fight, Gaara would have also come out on top if the fight wasn't interrupted. So, you know, this is just the case where Naruto's just gonna take the L.
So I've taken, I guess your fight was pretty controversial. Mine's like age-old controversial, and Sasuke versus Neji in the Chunin exams.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on here. Like you really have to read in between the lines to really see who wins here. So some of the like the basic stuff. So like we know at this point Sasuke is moving at Lee's speed, like Guy says it himself. Now Sasuke doesn't quite have the stamina, like the same stamina as Lee, because like Lee notes. Or like you can see Sasuke getting much more tired than Lee, but besides from that, it's basically known that Neji is stronger than like Lee without leg weights. Like we know like when they were sparring, Neji would win and things like that. And we've seen Neji take on like greater opponents, such as like Naruto with the small QB amp he had in the Naruto versus Neji fight. Now the thing is that at face value, you would think like this is a very even matchup, but when you look at Sasuke versus Gaara's fight, Sasuke is actually way above, I would say, Neji level. And that's because just by judging by how Neji reacted to Naruto versus how Sasuke reacted to Gaara. So once we see Naruto get the QB amp, he's basically like, he and Neji are kind of equally each other out, and Neji's like visibly distressed, trying to deal with like all this movement and stuff, and then they cancel out each other's attacks. And after that big explosion between the rotation and like Naruto's just QB chakra, like Neji is so tired, like you can see it, and he gets one punched. And I know some people get mad about that, but he was literally just so like hurt from that explosion that it makes sense that he was one punch away from just being done. As for Sasuke, when he fought Gaara in the forest, that version of Gaara that's partially transformed is way stronger than Naruto with that QB amp. Like you can just see by like he's running like sprint, or I guess trying to speed blitz Sasuke through the forest and then just clear cutting through several trees like it was nothing. Whereas like Naruto's just running around this arena and messing up some of like the terrain when he runs and stuff. And Sasuke is able to dodge this without his Sharingan at first, and then as Gaara continues to transform and get more powerful, he uses his Sharingan, and he even gets hit by Gaara once, which sends him flying through the forest, like way farther than the Neji was sent flying when he clashed with Naruto. And Sasuke gets up, and he's in much better shape than what Neji was when he got sent flying back, right? And also, like, we see, like, Chidori itself is combating against Naruto, or, sorry, it's even greater than Gaara's, like, attack speed or attack potency. Like, he's cutting straight through Gaara. And, like, amazing Tamari. Like, she can't even fathom that Sasuke can even do this. So, really, just because of that, like, how Sasuke dealt with a much greater threat in Gaara, like, if he comes at Neji with Chidori, I'm really not sure if rotation can block it. And I really think that if Sasuke can react to this transformed Gaara, then he can definitely react to Neji and win.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna add one thing to that. I loved everything you said. And this is literally the cherry on top, is that like Naruto like is making all these statements with the context that he can use the QB, like Chakra, that just was on par with Neji. So it's like you hit them down the mark.
And so after that, we get into the Sonic showdown. And of course, Sasuke was like asleep during the entirety of this, so Naruto doesn't have a fight here. So I'm taking on the Sasuke versus Kabuto fight. I guess it's kind of like that, where Sasuke is basically where Naruto was basically because Shizune got folded by Kabuto, and then Tsunade was afraid of blood, so both of them were out of the fight. Naruto had to step up. So in this situation, we're putting Sasuke in that situation. And it's actually funny that even though like these two are supposed to be at least relative during this time, Sasuke does way worse in this situation. And I think that the reason why is like when we're examining like these two fighters, Sasuke is very analytical, like quick thinking. He can very easily craft a defense and like decipher his opponents. Where Naruto needs a bit more time usually, but he can create much more outside of the box, thinking like offenses, just to do like analyze all their fights. So in this fight, Naruto he saw that Kabuto's arm was too damaged because he made it bleed out to scare Tsunade. And so he literally made Kabuto sacrifice his other arm by letting Kabuto just stab through his hand completely and then grabbing onto his hand. I don't think Sasuke would have any type of thinking like that. Like he's never really showed like that type of abstract thinking. He's more analytical. Like I would think that he would be trying to use like fire style and shuriken and stuff to create like some type of opening to Yushidori. Like he was doing that when he fought Naruto at the Final Valley. And in this situation, like if you're just coming at Kabuto with Chidori, it's just not going to work because he's, as Jiraiya said, on Kakashi's level. And when Naruto first tried to go at Kabuto, it just didn't work because they're just not like these are just getting here. They're not dealing with like someone like as powerful as Kabuto. So strangely enough, Sasuke loses pretty hard here.
Yeah, and then that's actually like the only fight that happens in like the Sannin showdown, at least in Naruto's case. So we actually move into like the Sasuke retrieval arc, in which case we have Final Valley Naruto against the Sound 4, which is like kind of the fight Sasuke took on before the village. And I'm gonna be honest, you might say like here's the logic, right? Obviously, you know, Naruto does have a lot at this point. You know, he can like if he gets like the QB chakra, he can do like the multi-shadow clones that were like surrounding Kimimaro, you know. So and he's like on par with like Sasuke's base form and like the Final Valley. So Naruto's like pretty strong, and this is like Sasuke like after he gets amped by like the curse mark, like Naruto's able to kind of like throw ones with him. So Naruto like is pretty strong at this point. You know, even his QB chakra is like able to completely dismantle like Sasuke with the curse mark and all that. But the problem is like the Sound 4 actually just have like too many hacks. Like you can make an argument Tayuya herself might be is honestly a GG at this point, as her genjutsu is just gonna wipe. Naruto has no way of breaking free from it. And when you couple this with the fact that like each of the Sound 4 have like all their unique abilities, like for example, right, Jirobo could like place Naruto into that earth pillar as like that drains his chakra as Tayuya sets up the genjutsu. Like the problem with the Sound 4 is that like Naruto and his squad members, there was like almost an intervention at each one to like talk about how they were gonna beat him. Like each sound member would stall the group, and then like the only way for them to advance was for one member to kind of like sacrifice themselves. And each of the Sound 4 members like also have different things. Like Sakon and Ukon can like start attacking, while Kimimaro just goes over and starts shooting arrows and stuff like that. Like it's ridiculous what they can do and the amps they get. Like they all have such diverse arsenals that maybe you could say like Naruto should have like 1v1 like them for this spot. And while I will grant you that, it's my video, shut up. Sasuke did have to fight the 4 of them, and he lost. So, you know, I'm giving Naruto a stronger case here. But honestly, like he's not going to be able to do anything against the Sound 4. Even if you argue like he's like stronger than them, quote unquote, like their abilities are going to overwhelm him very quickly. They all have, like there's just way too much. It's way too diverse at this. So yeah, Naruto kind of gets washed, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so as for the other Sasuke retrieval arc fight, for Sasuke's case, we're putting Sasuke in Naruto's position against Kimimaro. So basically, he's going to chase Kimimaro into that field, and then if he stalls long enough, Lee will show up, and then if he stalls even longer, then Gaara will show up. And basically, the win condition is just defeat Kimimaro, or at least like incapacitate him, or I guess Kimimaro will eventually die either way. So Anyway, Sasuke versus Kimimaro has also always been like an interesting parallel. Like even like part one Sasuke and stick Kimimaro and like heavy Sasuke and a potentially healthy Kimimaro. Since these are two of Orochimaru's favorites. Like they both have the special curse marks. I forget the exact name. Like these two stand out from the rest, right? And so in this situation, one way to compare them is like so Kimimaro went against Naruto with just like the QB amp where it just changes Naruto's eyes. So it's like the smallest QB amp, and he went in against 1,000 clones and easily defeated or like over 1,000 clones, easily defeated them without using any curse mark. Now for Sasuke, and this is 3 Tomoe Sasuke by the way, when Sasuke was facing the same type of amp with Naruto, he did just as well. Granted, he was only fighting one, but of course, I mean, shadow clones are weaker than the user. But anyway, so we're seeing like they're doing just as well against like the same fighter, and they also have the same amp. Like their curse marks are supposed to be basically the same or have the same amount of multiplier, I guess. So it's kind of interesting in that sense. Now, as for how the fight would go, I would think they would both just like try to fight with like taijutsu and stuff, and then once Sasuke starts bringing out like his own ninjutsu, and then Kimimaro is going to start bringing out the curse mark, and that's going to keep feeding into each other. But then eventually Lee is going to show up and like start using the drunken fist and stuff, and so that's just going to help Sasuke. And then once Gaara shows up, like it doesn't really matter what happens because Kimimaro ends up losing just fighting Gaara. So Sasuke there is just overkill. And so basically, I'm not exactly sure if this was like a one-on-one who would win, assuming that Kimimaro just dropped dead. But I definitely think Sasuke is strong enough to stall long enough for help to come and win.
And next up, we have Naruto Shippuden, the sequel. You should watch it if you haven't. I don't know if you watched it, bro. But it's this is serious, bro. Don't laugh. But it's we have Sasuke taking Naruto's spot against Kabuto, or not Kabuto, Kakazu, with Team 7. You know, like just because I'm gonna be honest, Naruto's really like he fights against like Orochimaru in you know, early Shippuden, which is like that's a waste of a fight in our opinion. Like that's a waste of a slot. And the other fights like against Sasuke, Kakazu being like his big fight. So Sasuke will take the place of Naruto like when you know he arrives on the battlefield. In which case Sasuke is gonna have the support of Yamato and Kakashi as a fallback while he makes errors, because in the original fight, you know, Naruto's making he had a couple blunders for like with Yamato and like Kakashi kind of being like guardrails for him. And this isn't even talking about the fact that like Ino and Choji are also present in the battlefield. So it's just like he has a lot of like basis, and it kind of gets into like, okay, Sasuke, you know, let's say that Sasuke wants to 1v1 Kakazu, right? What is he gonna be able to like take down Kakazu's hearts? I think this kind of gets into, you know, because I think a lot of people are going to probably say this, like Sasuke's standard arsenal might not be enough for Kakazu at this point. In which case, like also base Naruto's leaving out Kakazu, Sasuke also can. In which case, Sasuke probably will rely on his like ace technique Kirin. He even the reason I say he also might bring it up is because he even considered like bringing it up against Deidara, and he had like the best matchup versus Deidara. So imagine what he would do against somebody who was like actually pressuring him. In which case, this kind of gets into like Rasen Shuriken versus Kirin. The way I always interpret it, and New Horizons kind of agrees with me. Like these both are like at this point in the series, like they're narratively implied to be like similar power in terms of techniques. A lot of anime filler depicts it as such as well. Like Sasuke's like Infinite Tsukiyomi Dream like shows like Kirin and like Rasen Shuriken being equal levels and stuff like that. So you know, if you take that along with like Kirin being in like elemental advantage, or at least in the sense that Kakazu can't use his like diamond hardening, then like you could say like that would wipe out Kakazu. If not, like it would just take out one of his hearts, since it can't attack on that level. But at that point, you know, Kakashi and Yamato could always jump in, as well as the fact that Sasuke doesn't really have to expend too much chakra or can manually do Kirin. So not to like abridge the Sasuke fight, but I do believe like Sasuke would jump to that point just because like Kakazu fused himself with his hearts, and he's like on this crazy level of like where they're like, okay, we got to step in. I'm about to use Kamui, all of this stuff. So it takes him out with Kirin, which would eliminate one of his hearts, in which case, you know, he would just fight alongside Kakashi and Yamato, who at that point they would just be able to overwhelm Kakazu.
Yeah, and just one more thing to say about like potentially doing like a Tenchi Bridge fight with Orochimaru. Orochimaru and Kabuto say like they're not trying to kill any Leaf Shinobi because they need them to go deal with the Akatsuki. So it wouldn't really make sense to put Sasuke in a fight that he can't lose. And same deal with like we're not doing Sasuke versus Itachi with Naruto replacing Sasuke because you can't lose that fight either. But anyway, the next fight is one Naruto can lose, which is Naruto versus Deidara and I guess Toby a little bit. So, and this is going to be like the Naruto at that time. So this is like post Rasen Shuriken, right before Sage Mode training.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is definitely like Naruto is not. This was like the point of the series where Sasuke was way stronger than Naruto, like all the way, like almost as bad as like back in the Land of Waves arc. And so Naruto's just not doing well here. There's no other way to put it. So like we saw like even when Deidara was just messing around with him in the Kazekage retrieval arc, Naruto didn't really have any way to close the distance. Now it is possible, like I've said several times, like maybe he can use his Toad summon since they have hops basically, and like harass harass Deidara. But like, I mean, Deidara can deal with like Gaara Sand pretty well, and Deidara is being very cautious with Gaara. So I don't think the Toads are going to be enough. And then, so it's basically like, how is Naruto going to get into the air? Like maybe he can use like a Shadow Clone ladder or something, but I don't see that working very well. And then if Toby like starts setting landmines, he's going to be screwed. So like when Sasuke first stepped on the landmine, he was able to mitigate it by instantly turning on the curse mark and flying upwards, whereas Naruto doesn't have that choice. So really, I don't really think I have to say much about this. It's just like, you know, Naruto, if Sasuke was being pushed to his absolute limit here and he had a very favorable matchup, there's no way this version of Naruto can win.
Yeah. Just a quick note to add on to that too, like Deidara is like blowing off like Sasuke's like curse mark wings, which are like blocking like curse mark 2 Jugo's punches, and like Jugo's crazy in of himself, so it's like Deidara is performing these kind of feats, like Naruto might just like the explosions are gonna be too much. So yeah, I agree. And then, oh god, we're here. We're at 5 Kages. We made it.
So, and then we get to like kind of like I guess the Pain invasion, and I guess right before that was Naruto versus B. But anyway, as for Sasuke's fight for this round, we're going to be putting him against Pain when Naruto shows up. So there's a lot of circumstances to that fight that people kind of overlook. So like Sasuke is going to have a lot of intel, and then Pain is also going to be fatigued after blowing up the Leaf Village. Like the Diva Path was totally powerless for several chapters, and that allowed for Naruto just to like methodically pick the lesser paths off one by one. But anyway, in this situation, the way I look at like, you know, in Kage-sama Sasuke and Sage Mode Naruto, those are like, that's like the age-old rivalry, like, age-old question. I've always looked at them as like rivals, but Sasuke is way, his arsenal is way better for like sprints. And in this situation, I see it as a sprint to defeat all the lesser paths before the Diva Path comes back. And so, like, when we saw like in the Sasuke versus Danzo fight, obviously like his stamina doesn't really compare to like his attack power, but he was killing Danzo like over and over and over in succession, and then like tiring himself out and then killing him over and over and over. It's like once he starts going off, it's scary because these lesser paths of pain don't equal Danzo. Like Danzo's definitely stronger than like one of the lesser paths of pain. And so basically, like if the summon, like the animal summons aren't going to do anything to the Susanoo, right? Amaterasu is a problem for everyone except for like the Preta path. And it's just like if Sasuke's shooting Susanoo arrows and like Kakashi has to Kamui to deal with them, Danzo can't hardly deal with them at all, like almost not at all. And like Danzo died, I don't know, like at least 6 or 7 times just to the Susanoo itself. And so in this situation, like the lesser paths are not going to be able to break the Susanoo defense. Like they just don't have the power to do that. And so, since Sasuke is perfectly protected here, he doesn't have to be super methodical like Naruto had to be. He can just like literally just shoot Susanoo arrows and swing his Susanoo around, tire himself out. And I think that he can do this fast enough, way faster than Naruto, because by the time the Diva Path came back, there was only 2 paths left. And in this situation, I think Sasuke is just going to have his way with the lesser paths, and then defeat the Diva Path, who will be powerless, and then just be totally, like, he'll be ready to collapse after that. It'll be like a high difficulty fight, but I definitely think he has this.
And then, you know, I agree. The inverse of that is Naruto. You know, for the sake of this discussion, I'll give Naruto, you know, I'll give him the scroll with the Sage Mode clones. You know, I'll give him that. He can have that. Against Killer B, you know, when B just gets done lifting weights, comes back from his workout, he comes out, he's like, oh man, I'm gonna get some sake, yo. And he comes out, and then that Naruto's gonna fight that B. Now, but essentially, you know, this is a pretty interesting fight, especially since, like, I think it somewhat depends on, like, how much B takes Naruto seriously, because B was so much stronger than, like, the entirety of Taka that he kind of, like, didn't take them seriously and, like, proceeded to, like, toy with them a little bit by fighting in base. Now, if B does, like, try to tag Naruto in base, now, I don't think he's tagging him, especially if, like, I don't think it's possible that he's gonna, like, breach Naruto's Sage Mode with, like, his regular blades, especially if he starts it like Sasuke, because he doesn't even enhance his blades with Raito. He just, like, swings them around. So Naruto might just actually start breaking his blades, in which case, like, B might enhance them with, like, a lightning style. In which case, you know, obviously, I don't know. I think it's a bit more questionable if they're gonna hit Naruto, especially if Kisame is also able to avoid them. In which case, like, B would more than likely power up against this version of Naruto. I will say, too, Naruto at this point does have a lot that could take down B. His Rasengan variants, even, like, a lot of his physical blows. He's a lot of strong, like, AP at this point. You know, Rasen Shuriken's obviously a GG. Version 1B also might not perform that well against Naruto just due to his movements being linear, especially if, like, an inferior Sasuke is also, like, able to tap B's head and, like, flip himself around. So you can maybe make some, like, infer some things about this, but essentially what this fight boils down to is, like, if you think B, like, loses before he goes into the full 8 tails, I'll say this, and I've talked about this like, on my channel before. B, like, transforms depending on, like, what he perceives the threat to be, and his transformation speeds are instant. So if he does, like, see the Rasen Shuriken, I believe he's gonna be able to dodge it, because B is pretty, like, even his lower stages, he's on par with, like, the Raikage, and even in the war arc, he's a rival to him in base. He's gonna be able to dodge it, and if he does deem, like, Naruto is that swole, he's just gonna power up into his full 8 tails and just proceed to wipe Naruto. I think it's extremely questionable if, like, Naruto would even be able to damage the 8 tails with the Rasen Shuriken at this point. I think that's a little bit more debatable. Kind of gets into if you think the Rasen Shuriken's as strong as the 8 tails Beast Bomb. Not gonna get into that for that video, but that's kind of what it gets down to. Especially since, like, in the Kisame fight, B's first instinct was to go into full 8 tails, not even version 2. So I think in this scenario, if he's not playing with the group, or, like, he deems Naruto's, like, threat level is that high, he's just gonna go into full 8 tails and wipe him. So even with the additional clones, it doesn't really change too much, because B just powers up, like, his power-ups are so ridiculous that, you know, Sage Mode does offer a lot of hacks, and I think Naruto could damage B. I think there's just a speed disparity here at this point. So that's what I'll say on that. So next up, we also have Naruto in Sage Mode, just Sage Mode, no additional clones this time, or scroll, versus Danzo. You know, the same Danzo that Sasuke fought when he removes, like, the gauntlet, the icy drip on his arm. In which case, me and New Horizons were, like, talking about this, but, like, I'm a little iffy on it. He feels a little more strongly towards Naruto, so we're gonna kind of, like, both talk on this point, and just kind of come to some type of consensus for the people. But I guess I'll start off. So the reason I'm a little less I'm a little iffy on the Sage Mode Naruto point is just because, like, due to the nature of Sage Mode, like, it's harder for me to digest that Naruto would be able to, like, continuously kill Danzo over a 10-minute period. Without his Sage Mode running out. I just don't think the timer is that long, especially if he uses Rasen Shuriken. And it's not as if, like, Danzo's base stats are weak, as he's, like, very comparable to Sasuke's base stats, the 5 Kage Summit. He's able to weave the Susanoo. So I think there is a case that he could potentially pressure Naruto to use the Rasen Shuriken. Even with, like, him having his own summons that could, like, you know, suck in and change the area and stuff like that. He's got some really solid Suiton. So I think there is a great possibility Naruto might waste his Rasen Shurikens. Now, while I say that, there's also a possibility he could make a clone that Danzo can't see, since Shisui's eye is recharging. He won't be able to notice the clone. So I think it's up in the air. I just think Danzo has a lot going for him. What do you think? Talk to the people, bro. Educate me.
So I'm a little bit more favorable towards Naruto, because I think that, like, definitely if he's just running in with no clones, running out of Sage Mode is going to be very dangerous for him. Like when he ran out of stage mode against Pain, like he was able to briefly hold his own and taijutsu against like the demon path, but whenever he's very vulnerable when he's not in stage mode when he's fighting like this caliber of fighter. I do think that it's possible, and I guess it's like totally theoretical. Like he could just summon some clones and tell them to like just go run away so that he can just unsummon them and replenish his stage mode when he needs to. Like there's not much, like if he makes like, I don't know, like 100 clones, is Danzo really gonna kill all 100 of them? I don't think so, but that's getting a little hypothetical. But this is definitely kind of like the same case. And I was comparing like Sasuke and Naruto with the pain fights. Like Naruto is much more of a marathon runner at this stage, and Danzo is a marathon runner, right? Like because he had CK, he basically has 10 lives. So I think that because Naruto and Sasuke are so much of rivals at this point, but Naruto has the far greater edge on endurance. I just think in that general way, I can see Naruto having a strong case of winning here, especially if he can set up some stage mode shadow clones to like run away.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up like he can make a bunch of clones, because not a lot of people realize that, because he only does it versus the Ninetales, but if he did it against anybody else, it would be ridiculous. Like that's why I didn't do it against the Pain fight, because he had clones already waiting. So you know, there's always that restriction. Maybe you could say like if he does go to collect more nature energy, he can't do that sort of feat. He can only summon 3 or 4 clones. So I do agree. I think the edge goes to Naruto. I think it's just a little like, I think it's a little more debatable, but I think, you know, there is a decent case for on both sides. But I'm gonna agree with New Horizons here and give the edge to Naruto.
And then we get to the war arc, and so we're going to be talking about the first fight. Is going to be putting Sasuke in Naruto's position against Obito when basically Naruto rolled up with B and confronted Obito with the Edo Jinchuriki. We're just going to be putting Sasuke in that position. And basically, we're going to be saying that the win condition is basically just get rid of the Jinchuriki and force Obito to start summoning the Ten Tails. But anyway, I think that Sasuke is, in some ways, and this is, by the way, this is the EMS Sasuke that fought against Kabuto. So not like the one that has like a perfect Susanoo fighting Jubito or anything. I definitely do think that KCM1 Naruto is generally stronger than this Sasuke, just because Sasuke's eyes, his EMS is so underdeveloped here, but Sasuke's matchup is far better in this situation. But like when we see when we see the Edo Jinchuriki first start out, they're basically just showing all their hacks, and because Naruto and B aren't that analytical, they don't really know what they're doing. Like they're overwhelmed like the entire time, and then the ATLs decides to just level the entire forest so they can get rid of that clearing, or so they can have better line of sight. But anyway, in this position, Sasuke is way more analytical. He can think much faster and make counter offense is much faster. And the biggest advantage he has here is his defense and in the Susanoo. So once the hacks start coming out, like lava release, like bubbles, whatever it may be, like he can throw up the Susanoo and just think and just be safe, right? And then the Susanoo itself is its own monster that the Jinchuriki are going to have to deal with. Of course, they do have the benefit of being Edo, so they can replenish from getting hit by like a Susanoo arrow. But anyway, I do see like Sasuke he'll be fine up to the point that I do think that the HLs will still say we need to eliminate the forest so they don't have like the environmental advantage. But anyway, after that, we see some of the tailed beasts. They start transforming into version 2 and into full tailed beasts like one by one. But this is the case where kind of like when we were talking about Naruto versus Killer B on Sasuke's position, Sasuke was lucky that B became the A-Tails, because that basically just became a giant Amaterasu target. Like he kind of got bailed out in that way, in the same way that if these Jinchuriki start turning into full-tailed beast, Sasuke is just going to instantly Amaterasu them, because he knows that Obito needs all 9-tailed beasts to summon the 10 tails. And I think Obito would know this as well, so I think he would be hesitant to just fully transform them, because the tailed beasts aren't Edo Tensei, they're actually alive. So if one of those tailed beasts die before they get put into the 10 tails, then the whole plan, the whole Infinite Tsukiyomi is broken. And I definitely think that this Sasuke can easily Amaterasu at least one tailed beast, if a much weaker one can Amaterasu the 8 tails. And Obito can't really do anything about helping them. But anyway, because of that, they're just going to stay in version 2 like the entire time, and then Kakashi and Guy are going to show up, and like Kakashi and Guy were holding their own briefly against like several version 2, and then you have version 2 Jinchuriki here, then you have like the whole Eight Tails helping you, you have Sasuke Susanoo, you have Amaterasu. There's just too much for just version 2. Like they need full tailed beast here, but the Amaterasu just being hacks itself is preventing that. So basically, I think that Obito is going to realize he's going to have to cut his losses and put all the tailed beasts into the Gado Mazu and just like originally start summoning the 10 tails. And so we declare that like a W.
And the other matchup is if like KCM or Naruto and Itachi go to fight Kabuto. I'm going to be honest, like I think Naruto in this situation takes Sasuke's role pretty easily just because we're going to have the KCM or Naruto that fought Obito, to be clear for all you people watching. And Itachi fight Kabuto, Sage Mode. In which case, you know, it's weird to say, but this slot almost like doesn't really matter just because I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter but like the thing is like Sasuke was just more so getting babied in that fight by Itachi. Like Itachi was protecting him and whatnot. Like I could easily see the fight starting out the same, Itachi protecting Naruto as Kabuto goes for him to capture him. Or maybe he goes to like plant the tag and it would just, the outcome would be the same as it was in the original fight. He'd go for Sasuke. In which case, you know, the fight would continue. And the only thing you really have to argue for Naruto at this point is he going to be able to defend against Itachi's like Sage Mode like techniques? That being, you know, the cave constructs, inorganic animation, the sound 4 techniques. Maybe you could argue to Yuya's Genjutsu. That could potentially be a win condition, which would affect the matchup. The sound for Tsuya Genjutsu might be an issue for Itachi just because he did need Sasuke to like break him out of it. Maybe you could argue he would have broken through it just like via like the standard of the Sharingan, and Sasuke being there was actually quicker, which I think is fine. It just worked for both of them much easier. In which case, you know, Naruto really just fills the same role. All he has to really do is like defend against Kabuto's attacks with his Rasen Shuriken variants, and stall out for Itachi to complete the Izanami. Not too much actually changes. You know, maybe you could argue like Naruto like loses or like he gets caught, but at this point Naruto's actually really mobile with like his KCM chakra. He can you know, he's able to sense like the hatred. So even if he maybe gets blinded or can't see where Kabuto is, because Kabuto like liquidates and like flies through the cave, he actually should have a great deal of like threat perception due to that. So not too much changes, just because like Itachi was carrying this fight regardless in the opening. Maybe you could say some strategies change, but Itachi would just allocate the strategy to Phil like Naruto. Like Naruto would just literally do whatever Itachi told him. So this spot should be a W just due to the fact that Itachi was holding back and he was able to do this against Kabuto with Sasuke, who didn't really do too much in the fight aside from just follow Itachi's orders. So yeah, and so we went through all these matchups. You know, we talked about all of this. You know. And keep in mind, you know, we did have to keep this somewhat brief, so there's certain parts we missed in certain matchups. Sorry about it. But we have the score. We're going to keep up tally. So for Naruto, it's 3 W's and 4 losses. It's 3-4. And for Sasuke, it's 5 W's and 2 losses, which we didn't encounter. We didn't figure that out until we had to keep people in mind, give you perspective. That score did not come about until we like came up with the answers and like discussed it amongst ourselves. Then we're like, oh yeah, let's count score. We still have to do that. So Naruto's like a little more even, whereas Sasuke just does wash a lot of fights. And I don't think that's a result of like Sasuke being out. It's more so a result of Sasuke just being superior to Naruto for a good portion of the series. You know what I'm saying? And him, you know, just being better at a lot of matchups. Whereas where Sasuke loses, like he just really loses. Naruto like is just not suited to a lot of people Sasuke fights. Sasuke fights a lot of hacks people. Like Deidara is a good example. Like Deidara has like way too much for Naruto, wrong opponent. So do you have any closing thoughts? Anything like that?
Nah, it's just like like you said, you gotta keep in mind like for half of part 1, Sasuke was like a whole tier above Naruto, and then like the first half of part 2, it was the same case. So like half the series, Sasuke is just stronger, so it can be expected that Sasuke would have a better win record here, and it's only by 2 wins. I was honestly expecting it to almost be worse if we had done more fights. Yeah,
and you know, obviously, like we maybe could have chosen some better fights. So there's different fights. we just try to like line it up at similar points in the series. If you don't like that, shut up. Go like the video. I'm playing. But that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Check out New Horizons if you did. And I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.